Hey everybody, my name's Gray Miller, and yeah, I am the person who does the whole Papermancy thing, which is we're putting it together. It's a course on how to think more tactily with things that you hold in your hands or things that you make with your hands, in the hopes that it'll help you think better, help thinking be more fun. Wouldn't that be nice if thinking was fun? But yeah, I am going to share with you a article that was originally published in medium.com, although it is also on the papermancy.art website. But I don't expect you guys to have time to do that. I think you might come across this just scrolling through YouTube. And so we're going to do it here. What I'm going to be talking about is this little thing. And you're like, what is that little thing? Well, this is actually a version of another thing that was like this little thing, which is another version of this little thing. And all of them are what I'm calling a codex. A codex, it's C-O-D-E-X, is something that you should put in your pocket instead of, and I'm going to reach in my pocket and show you that I do have it here, your phone. Yeah, that's right. You should put a codex in your pocket instead of your phone because it'll help you stop scrolling and start thinking. See, I like to think that I know my audience, especially since I try and, talk about things that people would want to hear. So I suspect that you are watching this video in the hopes of finding another tool or process that might defend against that aggressive addiction preying apps on our phones. Low screen time is getting to be as much of a health bragging point as low blood pressure, but it's hard to resist something that is tracking you, selling to you, and is actually useful or entertaining just enough to make you feel like you can't live without it. Have you seen the way people act when they lose their phones? Myself included. So let me reassure you, I'm not going to tell you to get rid of your phone. I'm not going to pretend that it's even possible for most of us that are living in this culture. It's a well known aspect of addiction or enmeshment, as I heard it recently referred to, that just cutting out a habit cold turkey rarely works. It's far more effective if you find something to replace the addictive substance. If you find this, I can't unreservedly recommend James Clear's Atomic Habits, but in the show notes, you'll find a really good job of him laying out one of the most big examples of this, the heroin addiction recovery post Vietnam. So I'm not going to say to get rid of your phone. And I'm going to say instead, why don't I give you something that can replace your phone? Something simple, something accessible, something affordable, and that has a millennia long proven track record against the scroll. That's the Pocket Codex. Now, some of you are like, Codex? What are you doing? What? Let me tell you about the amazing history of the Codex. You've probably come across this word a time or two in your life, especially if you are a D&D nerd or a lawyer or a programmer or something like that. Forget all that stuff. This is not that kind of codex. See, the earliest recorded use of the kind of codex that I'm talking about was in 291 AD by a Roman lawyer named Gregorianus. No relation. You can imagine him as the guy at the office who's always got to be a step ahead with the latest tech or app. The first one who had a Palm Pilot, or the first one with a smartwatch, or the first one who used ChatGPT to help write a letter. Well, back in 291, just like today, there were a lot of lawyers, and they were talking a lot of law. And most of them would carry their records and law books on scrolls, carried around in big round boxes called capsae. Now, scrolls were awesome because you could write on long sheets that would be rolled up and stored, as opposed to those fragile clay tablets or the ephemeral wax that would melt in the sun or other forms of writing at the time. But they had their downsides. I mean, for one thing, you could only write on one side of the scroll, unless you wanted to risk smudging the writing. As the picture here shows, carrying around just some of your scrolls was pretty inconvenient. I mean, I'm guessing that much like today, they used unpaid interns to lug around the documents. Anecdotally, Gregorianus was strolling into a meeting without any caps at all, didn't have a single scroll in his hand. Instead, he was holding what looked like a block of wood, which is what the word codex in Rome, in Latin, means. And then he blew everybody's mind because he opened the block of wood, and it turned out that the block was sliced into thin sheets. We think of them as pages. And there, on the first page, was the statement of one of his clients. Then he blew their minds again, because when he flipped the sheet over, there was writing on the back of it as well. Now, I know that's not a big deal to us. It seems obvious, right? I'm trying to think of an analogy, but the only kind of one side, one use scroll I can think of in modern times is toilet paper, and that's a pretty crappy metaphor. So, to the people of the time, this was amazing. And it got adopted in many, many ways and still is. I mean, I'm betting at some point today, you saw a folder, a brochure, a notebook, a novel, a textbook. We've made up all those terms to delineate the type or size or intended use of the same category of object, a codex. Basically, it's used to describe the type of written record that's not a scroll. So, you're wondering, what does this have to do with less screen time on your phone? I'm glad you asked. You may have noticed that there aren't a lot of scrolls around your house, and it's really hard to find some kind of a designer capse. If you tell a contractor that you want a pegmata addition to your house with loculamenta in the walls, you may get a very funny look. That's because all of those are things that were designed to hold scrolls. But on the other hand, if you tell that carpenter, if you tell them, "Hey, I would like to have a library with shelves," she's going to look at you and say, "No problem." So that's why I think a codex can be the key to lowering your screen time. It's already proven to be a good replacement for the scroll. Now, there's a neat little fold that's called by several different names. You could call it a fold and gather, a 1/8 page zine, a pocket mod, and it makes this miniature little codex that will fit in most pockets, either on your person or in a handbag of some kind. When I say easy, I mean easy. I'm going to link in the show notes one of my other videos that it just makes it really quick and easy how to fold in a 1/8 size zine. But here's the thing. If you are waiting for me to give the "here's one guaranteed way to use this notebook to stop using your phone," I'm not going to. I'm going to give you 7. First thing you could do, a Bujo running log. See, my biggest beef with bullet journaling, which is Bujo, is the idea that you have to spend all your time with your notebook open, keeping a record of your day. You put a cheap clicker pen, or in my case, a brush pen, in your pocket with this codex, and now instead of dragging out a big notebook and paging through it, you pull out your codex, you scribble a little note, and you put it away. Number 2, time tracking. Whether it's for client work or just to follow the ubiquitous advice that you get from any "how to feel less stressed about time" coach. You scribble a little time scale down the side of each page and write in how you spend that time. Now there are 8 pages. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pages, because remember, you can write on the back of things. So you have one codex, 1 week. Easy. Number 3, tracking anything else. You want to track your meals without being asked to upgrade or upsell in an app? The codex can do it. You can track your media, write the names of the people you meet, make a list of the vinyl records your grandson wants or the stats from your other grandson's basketball games. Number 4, you could do a gratitude one. Now, this may just be me, but I find that the usefulness of a gratitude journal is usually matched by my grumpiness about actually doing a gratitude journal. This makes it easy and accessible. Number 5, you could make a list of squirrels and rabbit holes you have successfully avoided. Now, this one is for my ADHD peeps especially. The codex can help you focus because when a squirrel tries to lure you down a rabbit hole, you can write down what almost pulled you away from what you want or need to focus on, and your brain will know that it's safe for later. Sketching. Almost all of us have had years of training and experience in sketching, either our surroundings or our original creations. I'm speaking, of course, of our first 5, or if we're lucky, more years of life, when we scrawled little things on paper and had the people most important to us exclaim in pleasure and pride and hang them on the big box where the yummy stuff lives, also known as the refrigerator. Now, you may be more self-conscious now, but you don't have to share it or hang it on the fridge. If you just look up in YouTube or Google the mental benefits of doodling, then you put a Codex and pen in your pocket, you can let your artist flag fly. In fact, one way you can do this is called 8 images journaling. Now, this is a callback to a journaling message I mentioned in a previous article that I wrote on Medium and on Papermancy. It's a person named Ash Parsons who suggested 10 images from your day, just written down in full or in brief, as a good way to journal without pressure. See, the Pocket Codex adds convenience, accessibility, and immediacy to the idea. Instead of having to set aside time in your evening and think them all up and stuff like that, you can make quick notes of them during the day. And then in the evening, just the act of looking at them will cause you to reflect. And then, if you decide to write about them, draw them, or angrily scribble them out with a red Sharpie, you've still gotten the benefit of journaling. So you get the idea by now. There's a zillion ways to use a little notebook in your pocket. You don't have to pick just one. You don't have to carry just one. This one was an emergency codex that I made because my other one went through the washing machine. And it's got things in it like my flight information, and it's got notes about things I needed to do. It's got the name of the soup that I had at my partner's Korean birthday or Korean barbecue birthday party. And then it's got a diagram for an initial potentially analog sketching device that I'm going to work on. All those things went in this one little thing, and this is something I folded last minute because the other one I'd been using was in the laundry. And then I decided to make this one because I wanted to make that sketching idea. And admittedly, I didn't fill it up, but I did sketch a little picture of Randy's Donuts and sketch a little picture of the iPods that I was tempted by at the Apple resale store. So you don't have to have just one. You don't have to treasure it. In fact, I was hoping I could show you the one that went through the laundry, and I don't know where it is. I didn't throw it away on purpose, but I might have. So what? I don't think that Gregorianus really thought that people would be writing about his client statements millennia down the road, but here I am. So maybe you should keep them somewhere, and you never know who or when that little codex might go from a trifle to treasure. And while I don't normally refer to dictionaries as sources because I think it's kind of lazy, I did find a little part of the definition of codex in Merriam-Webster that I thought was interesting. Because codices were handwritten, there were few copies of any single codex, and sometimes only a single copy. This is like the ultimate anti-AI. This is exactly what you made, and you did it. Unless you Xerox it or scan it or something like that. And even then, it would just be a reproduction. This is the only one. So here's the thing. Codexes, I think I've convinced you now, hopefully, that they can be useful. But any tool is only as useful as how much you use it. You got to use it. And there is one way that you can ensure that you do. It's really simple. That place where you usually carry your phone, put the pen and the codex in there instead. I'm not saying get rid of your phone. You don't even have to make it inconveniently accessible by putting it like in a zipper pocket or something. That might be a good idea. That's you. You do you. But wherever your phone usually lives, and you know where that is, put the codex and the pen there instead. See, that will leverage a habit and muscle memory that most of us already have. Because right now, most of us have a particular, very familiar gesture that happens in liminal spaces, when we're in between things, or any time that we have to wait. In a checkout, at a stoplight, daycare pickup line, we reach for our phone. Now, what if every time you instinctively reached for that moment of distraction from your phone, you found instead your gratitude codex? Now, even if you grumbled, cursed that silly gray guy on YouTube, and reached to your phone instead, for just a moment, your brain was thinking about gratitude. Or thinking about what you're doing right now at the moment when you're reaching for the codex. You're suddenly more present. Or you might be thinking about something that you read or watched or want to. The point is, you're interrupting your phone habit of consumption with reflection in a way that is both engaging and easy. I mean, you can add little ceremonies and rituals if you want to, such as if I reach for the codex, I have to try and remember the last thing I wrote in it. And if I'm right, I win. If not, I have to write something that's worth remembering. Or maybe if I reach for the codex, I have to write at least one word or one line or one letter or whatever. If I reach for the codex, I don't have to open it or write anything, but I have to stand up and start walking. And then after you do that ritual, you let yourself reach for your phone instead. This is an investment in yourself. It also makes an impression on other people. If you are talking with someone and they say something you want to remember, if you pull out a pen and paper instead of the distraction of the phone, it makes a difference. Especially if it's pen and paper, because you're making an indelible mark on single-use paper about them. And that's a very different feeling than having a phone scan your biz card and lose your name among a zillion other contacts in the cloud. One of my favorite YouTubers, Rochelle in Theory, said something back in early January that I really stuck, which was that she said, a pen respects the permanence of the passage of time. But here's the other fun thing about the Codex. As I've shown you here, it's infinitely customizable. I mean, you can buy covers, you can even create ones. This is a little leather cover. This is funny. This is the little leather cover that my friend AJ Waters, an artist in Neenah, Wisconsin, created for me. Look at that. Isn't it gorgeous? All the hand sewing. And the reason I laughed is because remember I just said I couldn't find that zine that had gone through the laundry? I saved it and put it in this particular zine cover. And you can see things in here such as a recommendation for a book by Hassan Masudi called The Poet and the Calligrapher, and the fact that my future son-in-law Brian's ska band is going to be playing this Saturday. Actually, I think it was last Saturday. And yeah, a few other notes. And it also went through the laundry. If your phone goes through the laundry, you may be in a world of hurt. When this went through the laundry, didn't matter a thing. So you can get fine little covers from friends. You can use fancy paper or themed paper, either bought at a stationery store or printed out. You can put stickers on it. You can stamp it. You can singe the edges with a cigar and sprinkle 25-year Macallan whiskey on the pages. Okay, maybe that's just me. But my own current codex that I was using right before I grabbed that one that my friend made was a folded piece of fine resume paper with a kind of impressionist shading to it. And then a folded cover that was made of vellum with some of my own calligraphy practice on it. This is my codex. There are many like it, but this one is mine. Now, if you like the idea of a codex and other paper-based personal magic and rituals, you might enjoy my blog at papermancy.art. But if you don't, please just click like, maybe subscribe here. Man, I can't believe I actually said that. Anyway, yeah, click like, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think. Just one thing, if your comments are going to be, they make these things called notebooks that you can buy. Yes, I am aware. In fact, in the background, you see that little shelf back there? That's for an upcoming video. It's filled with notebooks that I bought or that were gifted to me. And it's going to be something where I talk about how do you deal with that. Here's the thing. I like all those notebooks somewhat, but none of them have the resonance that a notebook that I made myself would have. So we're going to talk more about that later on. So please save the, you can just buy a notebook things and let me know. What do you think? Thanks.